Sorry about that. That's a sacred cow getting worried about what's coming next. Welcome to my channel. I'm Simon and I specialise in working with couples and individuals who are facing the challenges of addictions and compulsive behaviours. So what's Betsy getting upset about? Well, I want to talk with you about a needed evolution that's been stirring away in the area of addiction recovery regarding the practice of saying, "Hi, my name's Simon and I'm an alcoholic."
Hi, Simon.
Or an addict of some sort. We've got to stop that language. It's not the best way to help yourself or those you love who may be struggling with some kind of addictive behaviour. This language, popularised through the amazing work of the Alcoholics Anonymous movement and its various branches, has taught us a certain way of addressing the identity of someone struggling. He's an alcoholic. She's an addict. I know for many, many people, this has been a significant part of not only coming out of their addiction, but also in maintaining their sobriety, which is brilliant, and I would not want to take that away from them. But the AA model doesn't work for everybody, and I do believe we can evolve and look at other ways of supporting people in their recovery. So that's the sacred cow I'm talking about. Here's an example of it from a discussion on the Graham Norton show.
You've said that it's not autobiographical in any way, and yet the character you play is a lot of you.
Well, I play a drunk.
Okay.
So... it's a slightly exaggerated form of myself.
Yes.
But
Were you an alcoholic at one time?
I still am.
Not really.
Well, yes.
I don't think you ever stop.
No, you always are. You always are. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm glad we're talking about this.
Well, you look great.
Thank you very much.
You look great.
Thank you.
And now,
I love Miriam Margulies. She's a bit naughty and seems to have dropped her filter a long time ago. I discovered her whilst going through my own very difficult season, and British comedy became my go-to for relief and laughter. I get Miriam Margulies' reaction in that clip. I also understand why Matthew Perry would make such a statement. But that's not how I work with people. You are not defined by your addiction. Your addiction does not have the power to determine your identity for the rest of your life. Who you are is so much more than that one addicted part of yourself. Even if you keep going back to your addictive behaviour, it is not the complete picture of who you are. One of the leading voices around addiction is the wonderful Dr. Gabor Mate. Much of his work is based on the idea that trauma or some level of pain has been experienced by people caught up in addictive cycles. Have a listen to what he says around this whole area of identity when he was on Bryony Gordon's Mad World podcast.
We were talking just before we came in. I said that as an alcoholic, an addict, your work meant a lot to me. And you said, you're not just...
All I said was, no, you're not.
Yeah. And what did you mean by that?
Because nobody is their dysfunction. That's not who you are. And no, you may have drank in a way that was harmful to you and your emotional life and even possibly your physiology and to your relationships. But that doesn't mean that's who you are. It just means that's something you did. And you did it for a reason. And my view on addiction is very simple, is that if you ask anybody, like addiction is manifested in any behavior that a person finds temporary pleasure or relief in and therefore craves, but then suffers negative consequences as a result of and cannot give up despite that harm.
How freaking good is that? Really, we have to stop saying we are addicts, alcoholics, whatever. What's your response to Mate's comments? I was literally punching the air in agreement. I felt my heart singing with the freedom that his statement is loaded with. Please stop identifying yourself by your behaviour. But here's the difficult part. You know what you do. Even some of those around you see what you get up to, at least to some level. Maybe because you enjoy what you do, or because you're feeling some shame and regret about what you do, which is part of the cycle of addiction, it can be hard to identify yourself beyond what you keep seeing yourself doing. Your addictive behaviour is not a picture of who you really are, but your addictive behaviour can reveal how you truly see yourself. So, what if we started to view our addictions as masks we wear, parts of us that have served a purpose to distract, protect, or manage us in some way? Maybe to avoid what's seen underneath, or to forget, or to keep the demons at bay. You see, it's risky to define ourselves by the things we do, but to see ourselves as anything else can feel daunting. This isn't true just for those in recovery. It applies to sports people, to retirees, to parents when their children leave home. You may have heard of Andy Bernal, former Socceroo and former manager of David Beckham, and now head of athletic development at the Central Coast Mariners A-League club. Have a quick listen to part of his story.
Oh, cocaine was everywhere. Cocaine was around when I was playing football. You know, I just never went down that path. But you know, once I got out of that path, you know, I was always very obsessive compulsive. So you know, if we're going to become a footballer, we're going to do it 100%. We're going to do 1,000,000%, and we're going to be disciplined with everything around that as well. And if that means no drinking, no drugs, no this, no that, then that's what happened, and that's how it was. But after football, you know, I didn't have to adhere to those restrictions and those guidelines. So, you know, and it was one of those things that, you know, I was offered a line of cocaine one day and I took it, you know, and it's, I still regret it to this day. You know, you know, I laugh about some of the stories, but there was a lot more darkness than beautiful days, and it was a flight I wish I hadn't have taken.
Very brave of Andy to share this, and it shows that a loss of identity can lead to addiction, and it can also keep us in addiction. Until we're able to understand and reframe what our addiction is relieving, we'll be stuck in the endless loop of trying hard and giving up. Recovery really is about discovering our true, authentic selves that has been masked all these years by our compulsive behaviours. Now, here's a quote I love from James Clear's brilliant book, Atomic Habits. Many people begin the process of changing their habits by focusing on what they want to achieve. This leads to outcome-based habits. The alternative is to build identity-based habits. With this approach, we start by focusing on who we wish to become. The reason I'm so into this approach by James Clear is because he succinctly states my approach to recovery. I'm convinced that real change happens from the inside out. I can't just start with telling someone to stop using. They've been telling themselves that for ages. That's focusing on changing the behaviour first, rather than helping someone become confident in who they are, their identity, and their accompanying self-worth. This is where I think the internal family systems model of therapy is so helpful. We get to deal with the addiction as one of our parts, not the whole. As C.C. Sykes states in her book, coming to terms with your true self means we are referring to a centered state of embodied self-awareness and self-acceptance, combined with a deep sense of how we connect to others. And that is about identity. It's something that I've been learning and am always working on. One of my core values is curiosity. I love to learn and find out how certain things come together. So I say that I'm curious rather than I'm a student. Because if my identity is based on being a student, who am I when I stop studying? But by stating I'm curious, I can always be that, regardless of the role I'm in. This also works with reframing our language around saying I'm an alcoholic or I'm an addict. It would be more helpful to say I was caught up in addictive behaviours, or I use some substances to cope with things. They are not statements about who you are, but what you did. This then gives you room to discover and come to value the person you are beyond your addiction. This inside-out approach is transforming. It removes the shame of lapses and relapse, and it lets you discover your true value as you walk out your recovery. And I think it's brilliant. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'll be working to bring you more videos around the area of addiction recovery for individuals and couples every 2 to 3 weeks. If you'd like to find out more about me and my work, you can go to my website at unhooked.com.au.